Yes, my people, it is your boy VRD, and welcome to part 2 of the commentated drive between Faversham and St Pancras International, London St Pancras International. Part 1 was comprised of us taking this 6-car javelin up from Faversham to Strood, and in this video here, we'll be continuing from Strood onwards to London St Pancras International. So without further ado, let's get into it. Right, we can't see the signal, but we can see the banner repeater associated with the signal, and it is in a diagonal state. That tells us that the signal is clear. Pressing the door close button, glancing at the monitors. Doors have closed. Final check of the banner repeater and the monitors. F&R switching to forward, releasing the brakes. Power notch 1, and glancing at the monitors as we move off and ensuring that the brake gauge falls to 0%. And I'm going to remain in power notch 1 until we reach 10 miles an hour, where I will shut off the power, and we're still on a downward gradient, so our speed will continue to roll upwards to the speed limit of 15 miles an hour. Right, we've reached 15 miles an hour, just using a short burst of the minimal brake application to keep us below the speed limit. And as you can see, the speed limit is going to be increasing to 70 miles an hour. But we need to wait for the full length of our train to be clear of that board before we can accelerate up to that speed. And because we've just entered the tunnel, it's a bit difficult to judge when you're actually clear. You don't really have any landmarks, any trackside landmarks to be using as reference, so you just have to try your best to guess. So I'm gonna apply full power about now because I believe we should now be clear. So we're now exiting the first tunnel and immediately entering the second tunnel. So the first tunnel I think is called Strood Tunnel, and this tunnel is called Higham Tunnel, but I might be wrong. And we're up to 70 miles an hour, so I've shut off the power, moved the PBC into the off position. Once we get down to about 67 miles an hour, I'll make a power notch 1 application just to slowly bring our speed back up to 70. Next station is Gravesend, by the way. This is Hiram station that we're approaching now, but we're not stopping here. We're down to 67, so I've made a power notch 1 application there, and that should slowly bring us back up to 70 miles an hour. We're going to be on fairly level terrain between here and the approach to Gravesend Station. Tell a lie, we're on a bit of an upward gradient now because our speed is decelerating even though I'm in power notch 1. So I've just upped that to power notch 2 momentarily. I think we're going to reach the top of this upward gradient after this left hand curve. There's a whistle board that we just passed, but it's not 6 AM yet, so we're gonna ignore that. Another whistle board, and again we're just gonna ignore that. And I'm currently still in power notch 1. I was bouncing between the power notch 2 and power notch 1 positions there. Power notch 1 seems to be balancing us out at 69 miles an hour. There's another whistle board, and again we're going to ignore that. Acknowledging the vigilance alert. So not too far from here, our speed limit is going to decrease to 50 miles an hour. And then not long after that, it will increase to 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, because 50 to 30 is definitely an increase. What a slow guy.
On the approach to Gravesend Station. We're also going to hit an upward gradient not too far from here as well. So you can see the warning board coming up regarding the speed reduction down to 50 miles an hour. So I'm going to shut off the power as we pass that warning board. And I'm looking for a footbridge that passes over the track. That is where I'll get my minimal brake application in. So yep, here's the footbridge now. Minimal brake application. And that normally brings you down for 50 miles an hour, bang on. So yep, down to 50. I just acknowledged an audible AWS indication that is regarding the warning board for the speed reduction down to 30 miles an hour. And the 50 mile an hour speed limit commences in the same location as that warning board. So you can see that the boards were stacked on top of each other there. So I've just shut off the power now. We're still in a bit of an upward gradient, which is helping our speed decelerate, reduce, whatever. Anyway, the 30 mile an hour speed limit commences midway along this straight section of track. So Gravesend Station is at the end of this straight section of track. So around now I'm going to get the brakes in up to 50%, releasing down to the 30 limit just in time. And this is Gravesend Station coming up. So minimal brake application again. Stopping position for all trains in this direction is at the end of the platform. Just momentarily increased the braking force a bit there, but now reduced it back down to minimum. There's our stop board coming up. Releasing. Minimal. There we go, perfect. Minimal on the brake gauge, neutral, door release on the left. Oh! The microphone dropped. Oh no. Oh gosh. Okay, there we go. I was stretching and I knocked over the microphone. Anyway, we're about a minute late. I don't know how that happened. Green signal. Pressing the door close button. Doors have closed. Still got a green signal. Final glance of the monitors. F&R switching to forward. Sorry, I'm just trying to move this microphone back to where it was before. I'm going to be late, right? Yeah, F&R switching to forward. Releasing the brakes. Power notch 1. And glancing at the monitors a final time as we move off, and the brake gauge has fallen to 0, so up to power notch 3. Speed limit is currently 30 miles an hour. I'm gonna shut off the power now as we hit 27 miles an hour. And we passed a board with the number 70 on it, so we should now be clear of that board. So I'm gonna make a full power application to accelerate up to that speed. Not long from here, we are going to be turning off of the, I think this is the North Kent line. We're going to be turning off of this line to head down to Ebbsfleet International and join up with the Channel Tunnel rail link for the remainder of this journey up into St Pancras International. Oh, sorry, hold on. What are you doing? So you can see that our signal coming up here has 5 white lights pointing diagonally upwards to the left. So that tells us that we're being routed onto the Channel Tunnel rail link. Speed limit for that move is 60 miles an hour, so I've made a minimal brake application to bring us down to that speed. And I'm also going to remain in the minimal brake application because Ebbsfleet International Station is not far from here. And once we stop at Ebbsfleet International, we need to change over because the track from here onwards is powered by overhead cables. The electrified third rail runs out at the end of the platform. So I've just momentarily increased the braking force there. Normally aim to be doing 30 miles an hour coming into here, but it's a bit of a long platform, so you can get away with doing 40. And the letter U on this signal here tells us that we are being routed onto the up line. Just trying to get that stop board in the window there. I think we might end up having a stop short. Yeah, we did, but oh well, who cares. So On this occasion, because we're changing power modes, I'm just gonna select full service as a precaution, neutral, door release on the right. Right, so yeah, as you can see, the electrified third row has run out, and we have overhead cables taking us down towards London. What I'm gonna do is hold down the CTRO button. CTRO standing for channel tunnel row link, not control. I know a lot of people probably thought that. Anyway, and you can see that our MCB slash VCB light has illuminated and the line volt light has extinguished, but we need the reverse of that. So we're gonna press the pan up, shoes down button. Now both lights are illuminated, but the MCB slash VCB light needs to be off or extinguished. So to rectify that, we just press the pan up, shoes down button a final time. There we go. So we are now successfully drawing power from the electrified overhead cables, and our speed from here onwards is going to be measured in kilometers an hour instead of miles an hour. We're also going to be under the control of the TVM signaling system. So pressing the door close button, because we do have a green signal. Doors have closed. Final glance at the signal and the monitors. F and R switch into forward. Releasing the brakes. Power notch 1 when the brake gauge falls below 30%. And full power when the brake gauge falls to 0, along with a final glance of the monitors as we pull off. So the TVM display has popped up with a reading of 130, so our speed limit is currently 130 kilometers an hour. We're going to accelerate up to that now. You can see the difference in acceleration as well. This thing absolutely flies on overhead cables because, like I said, they're charged at 25,000 volts. So as you can imagine, 25,000 volts compared to 750 volts, there's going to be a huge difference. So I've just shut off the power now as we got up to 120. Well, I should have shut it off at 127, but I took a bit longer, so hopefully we don't end up breaking the 130 limit because we're on a bit of a downward gradient, and the speed limit has now increased to 225, so we're going to accelerate up to that speed. Like I said in my previous video on the Javelin, I'm not going to explain the TVM signaling system in too much detail because I want to save it for an ultimate guide of the Class 395 Javelin when I eventually make one. I do need to make another ultimate guide because I feel like those videos get quite a lot of views, but they're just very time consuming to make, and I do not have a lot of free time on my hands, unfortunately. With my electro start guide, that took months. That literally took months to make. It might not seem like it, but I had to write out the script for it in my notes on my iPhone. I then had to record it bit by bit. That was just a nightmare to make. So the thought of going through that all over again is quite scary, especially with a train that I'm not as familiar with, because the electro stars, I know those trains like the back of my hand, so it was a bit easier for me. But with a Class 395 Javelin or even the Class 700, which are the two trains that I plan on doing the ultimate guides on next, I don't know too much about them, so I'm gonna have to do some online research, which is gonna be interesting. Anyway, we're now passing through Dagenham. You can see the Dartford crossing is over there, and yeah, the sky just looks absolutely beautiful. I'm quite pleased that I decided to do this sunrise run. So we're approaching 225 kilometers an hour. So I'm reducing the power to power notch 3. We're about to enter an upward gradient, but it's not too long of an upward gradient. We're going to hit the summit for that very shortly. So yeah, I've gone back into full power, and we're hitting the summit for that now. So I'm shutting off the power straight away, and our speed should begin to roll up towards 225. Yep, it rolled up to 224, and we're now on level terrain, I believe this is, so the speed is now gonna begin to fall. Now we're about to enter London tunnel number 2, and as we enter that tunnel, we're gonna hit a very steep downward gradient. So what I'm actually doing is I'm allowing my speed to roll down to 217. I say 217 is a good speed to enter that tunnel at. So I'm bouncing between power notches 1 and 2 just to accomplish that. So yeah, we're now down to 217. I'm shutting off the power. We've now hit the downward gradient, and we've entered London tunnel number 2, and our speed should roll up to 225 once the gradient levels off. So yeah, the gradient has leveled off now, and we're doing 223, so making a power notch 2 application, and that should just help us slowly creep up to 225. And I'm going to start thinking ahead in terms of my commentary. So the TVM display is going to start flashing very soon, and that tells us that we need to anticipate a reduction in the speed limit. So once it does start flashing, I'm going to make a minimal brake application straight away. If you're paying attention, you would have noticed that we were passing blue squares with yellow triangles inside them. Those more or less represent signals. So yeah, we just passed one now. So when you pass one of those, it means that you're entering a new signal section or block section. And when you have a reduction in the speed limit when running under TVM signaling, those reductions are spaced out between the block sections. When you have an increase in the speed, you can get commanded to speed up at any point, but a reduction in the speed limit will only be commanded at the start of a next block section. I hope that made sense. Anyway, so yeah, our TVM display started flashing. It was showing 200. It's now gone down to 160 as we enter this block section, so we need to be doing 160 at the start of the next block section. And if you're doing more than 15 kilometers above the instructed speed when you enter the next block section, you're going to get an emergency brake application. We now need to be doing 120.
It clearly says 130. I don't know where I got 120 from, guys.
So yeah, the white diamonds, the number in the white diamonds tells you that that is the speed that you need to be doing at the next block section. 138, and we now need to be doing 100 at the next block section. And because the display is no longer flashing, that means that 100 is going to be our lowest speed limit for now. We have no further speed reductions after 100 miles an hour.
Kilometers an hour, guys. I meant kilometers an hour.
So we're down to 104, just releasing the brakes. That was all done with a constant minimal brake application there. So from 225, once your display starts flashing, if you make a minimal brake application at that point, that more or less brings you down bang on for the 100 kilometer an hour speed limit. I now normally aim to exit this tunnel doing 80 kilometers an hour, and then a minimal brake application at this point brings you down for for Stratford International on a fairly decent deceleration curve. So yeah, it's an upward gradient coming into Stratford International there. So once you decelerate down to 100 kilometers an hour, if you release the brakes, your speed should naturally roll down to 80. And then, like I said, if you're doing 80 as you exit the tunnel, from that point, just do a minimal brake application again. So you can see I've just been sat in the minimal brake application the whole time. I may need to momentarily release it. In fact, yeah, I'm gonna release it now. Back into minimal, gonna increase that a bit because I can see the stop board coming up now. Increasing that quite severely, even. Releasing, trying to get that stop board in the window there. Come on! There we go, minimal. Perfect. Minimal on the brake gauge, neutral, door release on the right. We're currently about a minute late, but what can I do? What can I do? Anyway, we don't have a signal here, but we do have the 100 kilometer an hour display. So pressing the door close button, glancing at the monitors, doors have closed. Forward, releasing the brakes, power notch 1, waiting for that brake cylinder gauge reading to fall to 0%. Final glance at the monitors. I'm then going to up the power to notch 2, hang about in notch 2 for a bit, then up it to notch 3. And I'm just going to hang about in notch 3 just to give us a bit of a slower rate of acceleration, just to prevent us from accelerating above 100 kilometers an hour. But now the speed limit is 225 kilometers an hour again, so I've gone into full power. Okay, so our TVM display is now flashing, so we can anticipate a speed reduction in 2 signal spacings time. That is more than likely going to be a reduction down to 200 kilometers an hour, and we are currently doing 180 kilometers an hour, so we don't really need to worry about that too tough. So yeah, we need to be doing 200 kilometers an hour at the start of the next signal section. We now need to be doing 160, so I'm going to make a minimal brake application. And just keep in mind that you have a 15 kilometer an hour leeway above the instructed speed. So yeah, you can see I was doing 162 entering the signal section there, but it's not a big deal. I feel like when you keep that in mind, it helps you drive in a bit of a more tidy manner. And then we're down for 130, bang on. Now I need to be down to 100. Gonna release the brakes at 105 here because we're on a bit of an upward gradient at the moment as we climb into St. Pancras International. And then the 100 display is flashing. That tells us that we have a further speed reduction below 100 kilometers an hour. That is going to be down to 80 kilometers an hour. And the AE display is now solid, so we have no further speed reductions below 80 kilometers an hour. Well, we do, but not for now. 80 kilometers an hour is the final speed limit on the TVM signaling system. So I just used a short burst of minimal brake application to bring us down to 80 kilometers an hour. And you can now see that the AE display is on a black background, so that tells us that that just means our speed limit is 80 kilometers an hour, and we can expect no further speed reductions. Except we can because we have a speed reduction down to 60 kilometers an hour. Where is it? I can't really describe where it is, but it's coming up now. This signal coming up here. At this signal, the speed limit falls to 60 kilometers an hour, but there's actually no board to tell you that. You just have to know that it's there. And as we enter this left-hand curve, I'm going to make a minimal brake application. That is due to the fact that our speed limit falls down to 40 kilometers an hour. And that will be our speed limit into St. Pancras International Station. This is a very, very steep downward gradient, so I'm probably going to need to up the brakes a bit. 41, 40, yep, down for 40, bang on. So I'm going to go back to the minimal brake application. And the signal that we just passed protects St. Pancras International Station, and we had a number 12 on the display associated with that signal. So we've been routed into platform 12. You can see I'm still in the minimal brake application there. I'm going to aim to be doing about 22 kilometers an hour coming into St. Pancras International Station here. That is because, well, when I'm driving on other routes, I normally aim to be doing 15 miles an hour coming into dead end platforms, and I think the mile an hour to kilometer an hour conversion equals 22 kilometers an hour. Okay, so here we are, St. Pancras International. We made it. So midway along the platform, I'm gonna decrease the speed down to about 12 kilometers an hour, just using a short burst of minimal brake application to pull that off. And about a carriage length away from the buffer stops, I'm going to decrease the speed down to 7 kilometers an hour. And from there, I'm just going to creep up to the buffer stops. Got a very, very, very long and pointy nose on the front of this train, so I'm not going to try go too close up to the buffer stops. Just aim to come to a stand just before they disappear beneath the windscreen there. Okay, full service, neutral, setting the DRA because we are at buffer stops or a dead end, and we have a door release on the right. Right, so again, I like to make a clockwise check of the cab, starting from the left as we go through the shutdown procedure here. So headlight switch into the tail position, FNR switch into the off position, remove the master key, and that is it. Final thing we need to do before leaving the cab is turn off our safety systems. So the two switches over there and these two switches. And that is it. And finally, check the tail lights, ensure that they are being displayed correctly. So that is it. That is it. I said the word that is it like 4 times. Anyway, so this train is going to head back down to Maidstone West at 6:25, but we're not going to be driving that. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. more content is on the way. Trust me, this is just the beginning. This channel is going to be huge, mark my word. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And constructive criticism and feedback is more than welcome and appreciated in the comment section below. I will catch you guys in the next one. Love.